Oh my gosh, what a mess. It's too bad I can't blur out the background on this. Welcome to the live stream. I've never done one of these before. So I thought I'd come on a few minutes early because I've seen people do these, but I have never, that I remembered, have done one before. So I think I refound my birthday girl crown over here. And I'll probably just kind of hang out for a minute because I'm hoping. Ow! Don't do that. The cat is on my lap and he just bit me. Oh my gosh. So since I've never done a live, I'm sitting here like, okay. I'm looking at the board here so I can share screen. There's a mute, channel settings. Don't know what those are. I am assuming this is recorded, right? I don't know. I guess we will find out. That's for sure. Meanwhile, I'm just going to kind of sit here for a little bit. I got on early so I could, I don't think I've ever done a live stream before. Oh, there's my sister. Happy birthday. Well, I've got the cat, kicked the cat off my lap. Can you hear me okay? Since I'm here a little early. Let me know if you can hear and see me because you're going to get all the office today. Got my spin arts in the back. Okay, good. So you can hear me. So this is my first YouTube live stream, but I've seen a gazillion people do this. And it says like people are here, but I don't see. How do you see people? Live chat? Okay. So if everybody, I got here early because I've never done this. And I found, this thing is itchy already, but I found this. And it's itchy, but I'm going to wear it. My hair is crazy today. But that's another thing I was born with. I was born with my father's curly hair, and it used to be all the way down my back and brown. And I have pictures to prove it. But I have been pink I've been married for 21 years, so about 19 years, about as long as my business, I've been pink. So, and it started off as like blonde and red too. So I'd cut all my hair off. I only had the big bangs because it was popular back then. So it's like, you have the bangs because you're from the 80s. And we had the band bangs contest where we had to have them up as like, some of the girls were really good at it too. They had them all the way up here and they looked good for the time. Hi, Linda. And so if you're going to, yeah, I'm going to message people. Yep, just went live. So, I mean, it's 11 o'clock on the dot, so I'll be like, yay, it's 11 o'clock. This is my way of celebrating 50 where I've never done this before. And ideally, the reason why I wanted to celebrate all year long is because I knew I couldn't have this big grandiose party, and if you've known me long enough to know that I collect people wherever I've gone, I've lived a very long life, but also I've lived in a varieties of locations my entire life. With the exception of now I've been in Dallas for about 26 years, and that is literally half my life. But before that half of my life, I was living in lots and lots of different places. And so now I've kind of like, this is home base for me. But what I find is that I still crave relationships all over the place. So I have family in two different kinds of states. I've got step family. I've got birth family. I've got family that I feel like I've adopted. I've got friends that I've brought in. There's friends from all different walks of life that I've met over, the 26 years living here. Um, and then becoming a photographer, I met a whole bunch of new people there, and then a Blue Man fan for well over half my life. I have a whole community in the Blue Man community because we've all known each other since we were little, little. Even before I was married, I was in the Blue Man fan community. So I've known some of these people for, 25 plus years, and which has been cool. And then of course I have my sister online today. So if you see my sister, that's her over there, Stephanie. So I was born in the 70s, and my name, Jennifer, is very, very common. And my last name at the time was Johnson, so super common name. Matter of fact, when I went to college, there were 8 Jennifers alone, like when I showed up at college. And there was an actual person with the same name on my floor. Hi, Joe. So I was just talking about my Blue Man community, and Joe is one of the top-notch Blue Man fam. And we have known each other for, dude, it's probably got to be half my life now. I was just talking about how I moved to Dallas it's been 26 years since I moved to Dallas, and that's about half my life. And I feel like I've been a Blue Man fan for just a couple years longer than that, which means I've met y'all about the same time, right? So 2000, 2001. So I've known Joe feels like forever. And I will be missing the fan meet this weekend. So this is kind of like, it's like there's nothing I can do about it kind of a scenario, but I'm going to cheer you guys on because I know you're going to have so much fun. And hi, Lucero. So we have my photography community and my wedding photography community online. I've got my Clubhouse friend online. And so as long as I've been alive, let's say some of the stories of when I was born, I was told that, well, first of all, I was little, I was early, I was 6 pounds 9, which is, nothing in the early world. I'm not months and months early. But I also heard, at least my mom said that they wrapped me in foil like a little baked potato. So I thought that was really cute. And as you know, the 70s going into the 80s, which is a different time, just such a different time of growing up where you're riding your bike without helmets and bench seats in the cars and rotary phones, which I still have. I bought a rotary phone just to have as nostalgic. And you know what? If it plugged into the wall, it would probably still work too. It's brand new. But we had one of those growing up, and we also had a phone with a chalkboard on it, like a little miniature chalkboard. So, if you needed to write notes, but you were always tied with the wires. It was fantastic. And I'm trying to think what else has been super fun to witness over these last years. But a piece of what I was sharing is that because I've lived in Dallas for half my life now, the other half of my life was spent moving around a lot. So I was trying to talk to my daughter about schools because I was always the new kid at schools. So making friends was hard for me. And so making friends going forward as an adult was always kind of awkward. I always got along with people, but I was also very shy when I was young. And by the time I got to high school, I was like, you know what? I just want to be friends with people. Just let's just get over ourselves and just be friends and be friendly and kind. And so I ended up just like, I think by the time I made the decision to go to that high school and not leave, I had changed schools every year of my life. And then in fourth grade, I changed schools four times. Okay. So, and then fifth grade, I was in Southern Oklahoma. Sixth grade, I was in Georgia. Seventh grade, I was back in Oklahoma. Eighth grade, I was at a super small school where I had three students. Ninth grade, I was back in Oklahoma, but a different high school. And then 10th, 11th, and 12th, I was what I would call my OG. I'm so glad I stayed there as long as I could. And then I had a whole class of 19 people. My husband likes to brag that he had a small classroom, but I told him, I was like, dude, 65, that's a really big class. And so I graduated high school in a really, really small class. But the cool thing about going to high school in that time as well, and this is, mind you, this is the 90s, this is the early 90s, and which is, it's trending again, y'all. So the early 90s are trending and all this stuff. So in the early 90s, look at you, Joe, 72. Woo, woo. Yeah, so leave your comment in here. How much was your graduating class? If you graduated, what was your graduating class? I'm curious. I know my sister did not graduate, fun fact, and this is not to throw her under the bus or anything, but she left school and then she went back and got her GED, and she is just doing amazing with her life. She's a very smart cookie, but she did not graduate high school. And I did, as valedictorian of all 19 of my classmates. I also, fun fact, did basketball for those 3 years because it was one of those things that I wanted to be a part of a team, but I really didn't want to play basketball. Basketball was easy-ish to learn, and we were only playing half court, but it was a really great workout. Class of 99, 275. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. So, never mind. My sister corrected me. She got her actual high school diploma through the Justice Fellowship College of Theology. So I'm very proud of you, my bun. And actually, I still have her graduation photo on my fridge. This is how sentimental I am with her hard work as, Miss Thing. Class of 98 is Joe. Class of 99 is Lucero. Look at these babies. And I knew that Joe grew up in a small town, and I guess technically me and my sister did sort of grow up in smaller towns too. I think the biggest town we ever lived in briefly was it was in West Virginia. It was a big city there, but not like Dallas or Atlanta or anything like that. When we lived in Georgia, which is funny, there's some friends of mine right now that are at a conference in Savannah, Georgia. So we lived about an hour away from Savannah, Georgia. So that was kind of neat at one point. Fun memory about Georgia. Okay, so let's get into it. Like, this is my childhood. This is me turning 50. These are fun stories. So my time in Georgia, my dad had taken over a church to become a pastor over there. And we all moved over there, and it was talk about caravanning at the time. I can't remember if it was our move to West Virginia or if it was our move to Georgia. We were piled up in a van, and me and my sister were on a mattress at the very top. We had like 2 feet in between us and the ceiling. I can't remember if that was the move or if West Virginia was that move, but we were younger, obviously. And but I remember one of those moves it was a long trek, and then we were on a mattress the entire time just hanging out, and we had coloring books and all this kinds of stuff. But fun facts about Georgia is that was my first experience with a fire ant, and I remember getting a bit on my toe. I remember pine needles everywhere, specifically where we lived. There was lots of pine needles. I also remember barely making it into the yearbook for 6th grade. I didn't make it for class pictures, but I was in like some of the club things, and that's when I started learning the trumpet. This is not a brag at all because not I was not good at basketball and I was not really good at the trumpet. It was just things that I did, okay? So, in that musical time of my life, it was definitely different, but I learned the trumpet in 6th grade and I played it in 7th grade. And then by the time I hit 8th grade, the school didn't have anything. Like, and then by ninth, 10th, and all that, I was out of band by that point. None of the schools I went to after that had band, basically. I think it was Charleston. Yes, Charleston, West Virginia might have been it. We lived in Beckley as well. So, um, there was so that's my Georgia portion. So I have a really fun thing about West Virginia. And this was about 4th grade-ish when I told you I switched schools like 4 times. That was around the West Virginia times, and my dad tells this story because, mind you, we're, from Oklahoma area. We had never experienced, like, real winters in these mountains, and yes, like, the little mountains in the Appalachian Mountains, right? Joe knows because you're familiar with that area. Um, yeah, so, my dad tells this story, and I remember it because we lived in an apartment at the time that was on a mountain. It was like literally the parking lot was like this, right? And I think it had iced or snowed that day. And so I guess the whole thing was like a sheet of ice. And I think my dad was going to go out and start the car to take us to school or something. And then he comes back later. We're like wandering around the apartment, like, where's dad? Where's dad? He comes in huffing and puffing, and he had hurt himself falling on the ice. But that's not the fun part of the story. The fun part of the story is his version of it. He said he went outside and then he started sliding down the hill in the parking lot. And he said everything flashed before his eyes. He says, I've got some decisions to make. While he's sliding, he's having to make these decisions. He could see this car coming because it goes right into the street, y'all. This parking lot just goes right into the street. So he's sliding down the parking lot and he says he sees a car, parked, but he's like, I got to make a decision. I'm either going to, try to stop myself with my feet, but he's in his mind, he's thinking, well, I could break my leg doing that. And then he thought by the time he got there, he laid down flat and went underneath it. But just before he thought about that, I think he hit himself in the chest and it knocked him flat and he went under the car and then almost into the street. So he's telling us this afterwards while he's panting, trying to get back up because he thought to himself, well, I'm alive. I didn't get run over by a car. I may have hit a car and hurt myself. But he's like, how in the world am I going to get back up to the apartment? That's why it took him so long to get back up. And that's why he was not only panting, but he literally hit himself in the chest with a vehicle. I'm telling a story about my dad, by the way. This is my dad in West Virginia when I was around 4th grade, and about my daughter's age, I guess. And but he hit himself in the chest. So, and he goes upstairs. He's like, and I remember this, y'all. He's panting. He's like, nobody's going to school today. Me and my sister are like, yay! And my dad is literally physically hurt. We're just like, yay, we're not going to school. And he just gone through this very traumatic experience. And to this day, I always have him tell that story because it is so vivid when I think about him playing that out in his head about sliding down the parking lot in the ice. So that's a little bit of my West Virginia tales from my childhood. And yeah, it was definitely winter. I always got car sick in West Virginia every time we drove around the mountains. We did live I think we also lived in Bradley at one point. We lived in Bradley. We definitely did some stuff in Beckley. I feel like I went to school in Beckley once. And I definitely went to a school for a very, very short time in Charleston because my dad was doing social work at the time. So We had a lot of different dynamics when I was growing up. So I've lived in a lot of different kinds of houses and apartments and townhouses. Another thing about West Virginia, especially in Bradley, our apartment townhome was actually up on a mountain, like not like the parking lot I just told you about, but like the apartment was actually on the mountain at the base of a mountain hill, whatever you want to call it. And I remember it being like completely like gnats everywhere. That's one thing I remember about that area of West Virginia. No, I did not talk about Durant. I'm okay with not talking about Durant. That's just a piece of our lives. Um, but yeah, I remember the gnats in West Virginia, and there was always getting in my eyes. We'd go out and play in the woods, because it was just like, our backyard was a hill, just went straight up. And so we always had, I believe my sister and I, maybe she can agree with me here, is that we always had our toys to play with. They always moved with us, no matter how many different moves we had. We both had a good amount of toys that would go with us, stuffed animals. Let's see, the Cabbage Patch Kids. When the Cabbage Patch Kids came out, my parents, or my mom actually got, us kind of like, this lady was making them, so we got knockoff Cabbage Patch Kids, and to this day, I think we still have those. Steph, I wonder if you still have your original Cabbage Patch Kid. I know I still have mine, and that, had cute little yarn hair and stuff like that. It had the feel of the Cabbage Patch Kid, but it wasn't the Cabbage Patch Kid, because at that time they were super expensive. I've been promising my daughter to get out my original Care Bears from that era, and let's see, I'm just reading the comments real quick just so I don't miss anything. I love it. Live chat. Everybody pop in and say hi. You're welcome to say hi if you got the time. I know it's been an interesting live stream already. Let's see, what else can I say? Yeah, 6th grade, Georgia, 7th grade back in Durant, 8th grade, Little Church School, 9th grade. 9th grade was interesting. Actually, you know what? 7th grade was interesting because when living in Oklahoma, in 7th grade, we had to learn all of the counties and the county seats and be tested on them. It was like a lot of work. It was like 70 something counties and county seats. And I remember by the time I got to 9th grade, which was, another small town in Oklahoma, I already knew all the counties and county seats because we learned them in 7th grade, and they were just now testing and learning them in that school. And I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, so that was interesting because I felt like my history teacher reminded me of my grandpa Charlie. He was like super tall, bald. And 9th grade, they wouldn't let me play basketball because I was too new and there wasn't a spot for me. By the time I went to 10th grade, they said it was fine that I had never played basketball. They said it was fine that I could just be a part of the team and the practices, and then I would just like take notes and stuff. And I remember I basically had the leftovers for the uniforms. So I had extremely short shorts and like a giant jersey, like nothing really fit. And I think somebody said Jam and Gin earlier. I think my sister said that. You know why they called me that? Because I kept jamming my fingers all the time. When you try to catch a basketball and it slams your fingers and then you're like, oh, I was brand new at the game, never knew how to do any of that stuff. So I kept jamming my fingers like all the time, and it was terrible. So they called me at a very short time Jam and Jen, but that's fine. Only my sister knows all the dirt here. But yeah, so another fun fact, which my sister's bringing up all the dirt here. I twisted my knee in one of the games. I'd fallen on the ground a lot, and so my knee was already feeling kind of weak or whatever, and I was we were training a lot and doing a lot of strength training and running and push-ups and all this other stuff. And I twisted my knee in one of the games, and I was like, because I wasn't any good, I always played after the main team played, and if they were up by 30 points, I could play. That's how, like, not good I was. And it didn't matter, like, I didn't care. I honestly didn't care. It was just nice to be part of the team and support the girls and everything, um so he put me in, and then I twisted my knee, and it did this really weird popping thing, and it turns out I had torn my ACL just a little bit, and it's pretty common, even back then, pretty common. And so, I had the little knee surgery, and then, when graduation came around, I was on crutches going down the aisle. And, and um my sister's currently on crutches right now for a different kind of surgery for her ankle. So so I just remember how much crutches were very painful and all that stuff. But I have a picture of myself coming down the aisle as graduation on crutches. And at that point, I had a pretty decent knee brace, and I was almost able to put weight on it again, I guess, at that point. And that began the journey of that healing as well. But yeah, I did a poem for graduation. Again, small town, small school. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, there was a video. There was a video of, for some reason, I don't remember how or why, there was a video of the game. And so it was weird because my dad watched. He's like, "Oh no, this is terrible, my baby girl." And I was like, Okay, another fun fact about knee surgery. So they were doing the scope surgery, and they were still doing scopes back then too. This was obviously, I was 17 years old, so it's a long time ago. They gave me the video of it, and I said, "Absolutely, I want the video of it." And so I would show it. I showed it to somebody at school, and they thought that they had left something in my leg, and I was like, "They technically did. It's a screw." Um, so there's a scope of the inside of my knee and them fixing it and, putting things in there. And so, you know what? I don't know whatever happened to that, but I'm fairly sure I still have the VHS. Oh, yeah, Joe. I mean, those basketballs, if they're going hard and fast enough, and I know that you have a different health journey, but it's like that. It's no joke when you get those jammed knuckles and all that stuff. And yeah, I remember even just messing around outside after I had messed up my knee a little bit, and I was like, "Oh, that didn't feel good." And when I went and got surgery done, he could tell I had, like, re-injured it a little bit just by a little tiny bit of blood in there, and I was like, "Oh, that's creepy. That's weird." Um, so yeah, and then let's see, what else can I talk about? Yeah, so I feel like I had a really cool graduating class, great people. We've had a couple people pass on over the years. One particular from a brain tumor. I remember Uriah was like, there was like this group of guys, they were just like buddies, and they were hanging out all the time, and they all played basketball together. And it was kind of fun that, us girls would be playing, but we would travel for games, and then we'd watch the guys play too, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool. Um, but yeah, so Uriah had, I believe, a brain tumor, beat one, and then it came back. And so I went and saw him right before he passed away. And what was really cool about him is that, well, first of all, he was an interesting personality. This is back in the Beavis and Butthead days too, y'all. This is the prime of Beavis and Butthead. These guys were funny. They were silly. They were just, having a good time in high school, made good friends, small classrooms, like I said. But what I remember about Uriah is he always wore this cologne called Cool Water, and it smelled really good. And I was like, "Tell me what that is. I need to know what that is. It smells really good." And so I remember one day he ran up and did this almost like a Zoolander spin. And I said, "That's it." Because he had, like, I guess a couple of fragrances. And I said, "That's the one." And he told me what it was. And I was like, "That's nice of him to do that." But what's funny is like years later, we got together and we were trying to recreate a photo from our yearbook because we were voted most likely to succeed. And I was like, whatever that means. But we were voted most likely to succeed. And so we posed for a photo for the yearbook. And of course, I had my hair all the way down my back at the time. It was brown, and the yearbook photos are all black and white anyway. It doesn't matter. But we recreated that photo as more adults. And it was really funny because I was just like, if I could do one thing, with friends I might have known for years is recreate silly photos back before, a lot of people have been doing that in the last years, right? You recreate photos from childhood or whatever. And so we did that and it was fun and had some good times and memories with them. And um, the reason why I stayed at that school for so long, and I drove 23 miles a day to get there because I didn't want to leave. I was like, I'm tired of changing schools. I don't want to go to Southern Oklahoma anymore. I just want to go to a small school where I feel like I can actually be a part of the community and I can actually, be with the classrooms and not have to worry about anything. So that was cool. That was something that I don't regret. I don't regret those 7 a.m. basketball practices, even though I sucked at basketball. I loved the 1 year of German I got to take, the 1 year of art in high school. And then when I had the coolest science teacher, y'all, because this lady was into aerospace and she went to the actual, at the time, that space camp, like the one from the movie. She went to the actual space camp and she would give us opportunities that we wouldn't normally know about. And that's how I ended up at Oklahoma State taking these really fun aviation camps. So, and I don't know if they still do them, but I did it. I did an aviation camp 1 year that was like 2 weeks long for summer. And then the following year, I did one in between my junior and senior year. It was called Aviation Careers Exploration. And that's where I met one of my good friends, Angela. And we were going to the same college together, but we had met at that summer camp. And she was going into probably the aviation side. And I was like, well, I'm kind of looking at electrical engineering. Can you imagine me in electrical engineering? I thought like it was a plan. Like I was like, maybe I could go do this. I'm okay at math and science. And then then I get there to college and I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. Don't know what I want to do anymore. So after 2 years of that, I was like, well, I'm just wasting my time. So I'm checking out. And that's why I never got a college degree or anything like that. Is because at that time in the 90s there, I couldn't figure out there wasn't anything in the book. When they give you a book of courses and classes and all this stuff. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I just left college and went right into the working world. And at that point, I was like, well, everybody knows Word and Excel at that point. And so I already had computer experience by the time I got in there. And what's even funnier, and Joe, you'll love this because you were probably doing the same exact thing I was at that time. There were all these little chat rooms you could get into in the 90s that were just a dummy terminal chat room. No avatars, no pictures, just usernames. And I remember going into the computer lab and just chatting with people who I had no idea who they were. And they could be real, they could be not real. I mean, technically it was a computer lab, so you were kind of I don't know how in the world we all mixed together, but I found these chat rooms. And one of my usernames, they wouldn't let me keep it because it was too close to the real thing. But I called myself Jean-Luc Picard. So instead of Jean-Luc Picard, it was Jean-Luc. So I had the Jen/Luke. But they wouldn't let me keep it because it was too close to his real name. So then I called myself Tribble. And these are my really old usernames from back in the day, back in the Star Trek days, which I still watch Star Trek occasionally. But those were the times where I was getting my friend hooked on Star Trek: The Next Generation. So we were being really silly, and she was Data and I was Tribble. And so we'd just go into the computer lab and just kind of like, we weren't working at all. No school stuff whatsoever. We were just chatting in online rooms. It was hilarious. I don't even know what they were called back then. But also my first job ever. And I was applying recently to this podcast and they're like, we want people who've been in corporate world for 20 years. And I was like, dude, I'm only 50. And I didn't start working till I was 18. Like some people, like my husband has been working since he was a kid because he was on the farm. I couldn't start working till I was 18, and I worked at a restaurant off and on for 2 to 3 years. So I ran the salad bar, and I was called a runner, actually. I was a runner and I refilled the salad bar, I wiped the salad bar, and if I was closing, I had to clean the inside of the salad bar. And we always had this big routine. "Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody coming in." I'm just telling stories of, the things, and I'm telling about my first job, actually. My first job that I got a paycheck for, in the real world was at a restaurant, and I was at that restaurant for so long that I actually was with them, and we went through this transition of, a remodeling. So they kind of, like, rebranded and remodeled their updated everything. So I was there during all of that, and, we were, still working and putting in work and cleaning up, and that was, like, the first time I'd seen the stoves get cleaned behind them, like, that kinda stuff. Um, I also remember this is coming to me right now, I think it was the Smashing Pumpkins song, "Tonight, Tonight." And I remember that playing somewhere, like, this is the time again, this is the '90s, 94 to '96 at this point, and I remember that music. I remember my first CD was probably Alanis Morissette, and I also had Oasis and Bush. I had this very eclectic kind of thing about me, and actually, I recently watched the Oasis documentary, and I really liked it. 'Cause I'd always wondered about what happened between the brothers and the band and all that, and so they kinda, like, answered all my questions. But I also remember going into the lounge, and they were giving awards at college for, really silly things, and they were calling me a lounge lizard because if I wasn't on the computer rooms chatting, I was definitely watching movies in the lounge because we had this movie channel that was free movie streams, all like, you couldn't go in there and push play and record or anything, but you could watch them, on this alternative channel, and I remember that's the first time I saw Clerks. So Clerks came out. Yep. So Clerks came out, I watched it in the lounge of my, college. So when I watched it, I was like, "This is interesting, different." But also, if some of y'all know from the '90s, when I got in college, that's when The Crow came out. So in 1994, around this time where Independence Day was coming out, the '90s were this really interesting pieces of movies coming out. I saw Independence Day 4 times in the theater. I saw Batman Forever in the theater 8 times. And I say that because it was super cheap back then, y'all. Like these tiny towns, you can go there for like $4 or whatever. It wasn't like it was super expensive. Um, I saw Independence Day, I went and saw I believe I saw The Crow in the theater, I think, maybe. Whenever I saw it, that was like a complete like, that's my little goth side. I was always wishing I could enjoy that kind of fashion and that interesting kind of the way it was put together with this I don't know. It was a figure, right? Brandon Lee was a figure at the time. And, that was also the first time I tried to cosplay and do the makeup, and I did a terrible job at it, but I had a bodysuit and I borrowed a black turtleneck. I think I borrowed makeup from somebody on my floor, and then I tried to do the makeup, which I did terrible at it, and my hair was brown and long, which was fine, but it still doesn't look the part. So I took a picture with this guy. Somebody's boyfriend was there getting his makeup done, and it looked real. Like, he looked great. He had the long hair. He had the real, clown makeup versus and then all the other stuff. And I took a picture next to him, and I was like I went to eat that day, I remember the guy was like and, he was calling my name because I think I'd put in an order. I don't remember how the cafeteria work actually. Like, I just remember having to go up there and he says, "And great job coming as a mime." And I was like, "I'm not a mime. I'm the crow." Oh, so I just thought that was really funny. And I was like, well, he obviously didn't get my vision. Oh my gosh. Bye, Trey. It's so good to hear from you guys. Yes, feel free to leave a comment in the section here. I'm just telling silly stories from life and childhood and teenagehood and college. Um, but so when I left college, I ended up in Texas for the first time in the late '90s. And I moved around with my mom and stepdad for quite a while. They were traveling and doing ministry stuff. And so I would kind of like, just like be like a house take care of the house or a pet if they had them. And so I remember there's a whole bunch of stuff that's blurry in mine. And I know me and my sister are like trying to figure out, like, there's a patch of our lives where it's kind of blurry because we were both in transit, just moving around. We just don't know. There was a piece of my life where I'm like, I don't remember what I was doing. But by the time I left college, I know I was in Irving for a short time. And then I lived in Paris, Texas briefly. And we're talking the amount of time I lived in these places was about the time the temp agencies would have you hired out for a job, like 7 months, 8 months, 9 months. And I remember thinking to myself, people are going to wonder about my resume. People are going to be like, why are you moving all the time? And I'm like, well, because I haven't found home yet. And so in 99, I was back in Tulsa where I was born. And I was like, this doesn't feel like home either. And then we ended back up in the DFW Metroplex. And I was like, there's a lot of opportunity here. You can live outside the big city. You have access to the big city. And then that's when I set foot here, is what I was telling y'all 26 years ago. And I hadn't left. But I've had a varieties of jobs before I became the full-time photographer. So I had a lot of data entry jobs because I was really good at it. I was typing online all the time. I was in chat rooms. I was on all this stuff. This is the point where I met my Blue Man fan community, and we were on the message boards all the time. And we were chatting and doing all kinds of stuff. And I remember up until my photography, that was the longest running job I ever had, was 7 years long. And I was at that company for 7 years. So I was there through 9/11. I was there through 2 purchases of the company. And eventually they just disbanded the company altogether and merged them into a big company. So it was a small company that was doing good work. And then they decided to be bought and sold a couple of times and became implemented and just taken into a bigger company. So that's when I got laid off in 2008. And then ever since then, I've been pursuing entrepreneurship. So, but I started the photography side of myself. I started classes in 2006 and on paper in 2007. Then I got laid off for real in 2008. So that was definitely an interesting transition. Going from the working world, I just feel like there was such a short transition between 18 years old to all of a sudden I'm a young adult. What is that? It's crazy, right? And about this time, I believe I see my friend Becky on here. I had met Becky at this time. I'd met my friend Tiffany at this time. I had met my Blue Man family, my friends and family there. But I didn't meet Zach until 2004. So I had this, chunk of time where I was single in the city and still living with my mom and stepdad. And then finally I got on my own apartment, and I had a roommate for a short while. And then I had my own apartment right before I got married. And I remember it had such a tiny living room and a big bedroom. And at the time I had taken on my stepbrother's cat, Simba, who was a one owner cat. And he would always eat the door frame of my apartment. So I had a door that kind of shut off to the living room and a door that shut off to the bedroom. And he would just scratch and bite the door frame the entire time. If I let him sleep with me, he would lay on my head and lick my hair like all night long. And I was like, so I just couldn't sleep with Simba in the room at all. So that was funny. Simba was a whole other story and a half. When I lived in Tulsa is when I had first met Simba. This is a sidebar story. So in the 90s, when I lived back in Tulsa, and I was kind of temporarily living with my stepbrother at the time just to get a job and get on my feet. And he tried to warn me about Simba. And he would attack out of nowhere, just attack. And I remember and y'all, this is the time I was wearing pantyhose too. Like, those were the days where I'd go to the office in pantyhose and a skirt and a shirt and all this. And the movie While You're Sleeping had come out. So I really enjoyed Sandra Bullock's outfits with the cute long skirts and the little tops. And it just looked really cute. So I always wore these cute little skirts and tops that are very close to how Sandra dressed in that movie. I had pantyhose on, and Simba attacked me one morning, and I had like a 3-inch scratch down my leg and a fresh rip in the pantyhose. And he drew blood on that one. And I was just like, and I remember, I think I kicked him out of the way because I was like, Dude, I'm just walking here. Like, just that's it. All I was doing was walking. Um, Turns out much later, I end up adopting him as my own. So that was interesting. And my stepbrother told me the best advice. He says, don't try to make friends with him. Don't try to pet him. Don't do anything. Let him come to you. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. And so I did. And it took about 3 days, and Simba adopted me. I mean, he didn't have a choice. It was either that or euthanasia. Like, that's really what it is. My stepbrother's like, somebody has to take this cat. And I'm like, well, I have to take him because I don't want him to get killed. So I took him, knowing that I have all those memories of him attacking me, by the way. Like, this was obviously years. I think he was about 5 at the time I got him. So there was enough time to where I was like, crap, I'm going to take this cat. He's a, super aggressive-ish. At least he was at the time. And then, but yeah, after about 3 days, he adopted me. And so he would start laying on my head. And he was my buddy up until we had to put him to sleep. And my friend Becky knows because she was there when she met Simba at the tail end of his life. And he didn't live that long. He only lived to about 9. So I only had him about 4 years. But at that point, I'd met everybody. I met some new people in my life, and then I had to say goodbye to Simba. That was definitely a hard thing. And but you know what's funny is that I still use the same vet I used when I had put Simba down. So it was pretty neat that I still use the same vet. And now we had our other children for 16 something years. And then now we have our boys, and I think they're about 4-ish. So the brothers. But yeah, and so you know what? Pets is a great conversation too. How about that, Steph? Okay, so since my sister might still be on here, going backwards in time again, does everybody have siblings that love animals more than you do, or that you want? I want this animal, I want this animal, I want this animal. So my sister was like that, I feel like, a lot. I liked having the cats. My cats, my mom and our family had 3. At one point, we had 3 cats together. I don't know how they all got along, because when I got Hans and Chewy, they didn't get along at all. And I was like, how is this even possible that our cats don't get along? Because I always seen cats get along. I never seen cats fight. So it was weird to me that why our Hans and Chewy fought all the time. Or actually, it was just Chewy. It wasn't Hans. He was a lover. So anyway, going to the pets thing. So when we were growing up, we definitely had, in this short time of our life, childhood, right before we started moving a lot, we had 3 cats, and we had some cats travel with us. I told you all I lived in Georgia for a short time. Well, we ended up adopting a cute little orange cat, and we called him Boo Boo. And he moved with us all the way from Georgia back to Oklahoma. And I was like, that's a commitment. That cat came with us everywhere, and he didn't pass away till I was in college. So he was an awesome cat, and he was an indoor-outdoor cat. And he also got in a fight with, I guess, a bird, and he lost his tail, and they had to surgically remove parts of his tail. So he had a little nub about 2.5, 3 inches long. So I have a photo of him with and without his tail. And then by the time we were in college, he had gotten an injury that wouldn't heal. And so they had to put him to sleep. And it was awful. I remember being very upset, but it's like, what can you do? It's a pet. My sister was like, oh, I want a dog. I want a dog. And I think was that the only, no, that's not the only time we had a dog. Okay. So Dusty, does anybody remember the movie, The Three Amigos? So The Three Amigos is a childhood favorite of ours. You got Martin Short, Chevy Chase, and Steve Martin, and they're actors, and they play in a lot of movies from the Old West, and they're called The Three Amigos. And What's fabulous about that movie is it was just entertaining, it was funny. I mean, they were big, still are, the big comedians of their time, and we had a great time watching that movie. So, I don't remember when and how we adopted our little poodle, but his name was Dusty Bottoms Johnson. So, and if you didn't already know, Dusty Bottoms is Chevy Chase's character. So his name was Dusty Bottoms, and so our poodle's name was Dusty Bottoms. And so when you're, I don't, maybe y'all have this too with your pets and stuff, and you have pets over your lifetime, and you name them and you give them your last name too. So you go to the vet, his name is Dusty Bottoms Johnson. We're checking him in. And what was it? I mean, every time I don't think I did that with Simba, but I know we did it with Hans and Chewy. So Hans and Chewy had our last name when I checked them into the vet, and on their carriers they had, either was Chewy Shoelock or Hans Shoelock. And Chewy was after Chewbacca. Hans was our, Russian blue. We called him the Russian blue smuggler, Hans Solo. Simba was already given his name, so I adopted him as Simba. But Dusty, we named him. I guess Steph, did you name him? Because I don't think I named him, but we had him for a really long time, and he was quirky, and every time he would beg for something, he'd throw his paws together. And my sister was like, yeah, I want a dog. And you know how it is. The parents are like, yeah, you got to take care of him. Well, you know what? We all ended up taking care of that dog. I didn't want to, but we had to. That's why cats are so much easier, right? So yeah, we had our family. That was our one family dog that we had. And so that was hilarious. Sorry, I'm just gonna, oh no, what did I do? Gotta move back to the screen. Sorry. Hi Mom. My mom made it on. Yeah, so we were just talking about Dusty Bottoms and pets over the lifetime. So I had Simba. When I got married to Zach, I had brought Simba into the marriage, and then we adopted Chewy together. Chewy was a long hair Manx, which means she had no tail whatsoever. And then a year later, we adopted Hans because Chewy just wanted nothing to do with me. And I was like, you know how it is when like you want to love on a pet and you can't love on them because they won't let you. That's kind of how it was. So yeah, we had Hans and Chewy for a long time, but as a family, we also had all the cats, we had the dog. Oh yeah. And then the other part of when we moved to rural Oklahoma, I don't know how and why we got Freckles the dog, but Freckles the dog gave us 11 puppies. So that was our first, at least that's my first time to have a dog that had kids. And I seem to remember Mom having to do a lot of things that you wouldn't normally. She stayed up with the dog. She stayed up with Freckles to make sure she was okay. My sister and I woke up to more puppies, right? There was more puppies. And our neighbor, I believe it was our neighbor who was kind of giving us the heads up. Okay. Okay, so that's the backstory on Freckles. It was our neighbor's dog because I feel like our neighbor also helped us with what to do with a pregnant dog, because I remember us not knowing what to do, but then I remember our neighbor being super helpful because she also raised bunnies too, I think. So, mind you, this is definitely rural Oklahoma. We were on this great piece of property with chickens and a guinea. Like that's a whole other story in itself. By this time I'm in high school, and the chickens were fun to watch, and they would, we'd let them out to eat on the land. And then one day the dogs ate some for lunch, and then there was only like 2 chickens and the guinea left or something, and, there was 1 chicken that would always fly over everything, and she would get out all the time, and then the guinea, I'd never seen a guinea before in my life, and so when you would listen to the guinea, he'd be all sweet and cute or whatever, but if he was in distress, he would have that honk, right? A couple of times that I remember while we lived at that house, the guinea would actually come up and look in our door, and he would just kind of poke on the glass, and you'd be just minding your own business, and the guinea would show up. And you're like, "What's going on over here?" So, yeah, we were living in lots of different places, lots of different houses, lots of different scenarios, and so that's why at 50 years old, I'm sitting here like, "Well, I've stayed put long enough in Dallas where I've been in one house for a really long time, but all the memories still come back of how many different places that we've lived and moved and how sometimes like a fresh start was always interesting, depending on whether or not I had to share a room with my sister or I was just living there as an adult with my mom and stepdad. Um, every scenario was unique. Yep, all the things. Yeah, see, I didn't even remember when we got Dusty. I'm so glad that everybody could stop in. I can't honestly see who is left here because it doesn't show me anything. It just shows me comments. So FYI, I'm just asking. So I'm trying to think what else. So what I've been doing for myself this year has been celebrating all year long because 50 is such a thing that when you're 29 years old or 28 and you're like, what does 50 even look like, right? I thought it'd be it is a milestone moment for me. And I was like, well, something about being alive this long and having this range of life experience is just fascinating. It's fantastic, actually. To see the different ranges of culture, to see the different ranges of technology. I mean, talking to my grandparents before they pass away and hearing how life was for them. I watched documentaries and then I told my husband last night, I said, how did we even get here? Right? Like if you trace back your personal lineage, how did we get here? And so it's just interesting to see how things kind of go together and the way my parents met was interesting. The North and the South came together and they met in Oklahoma. And then how I met my husband coming into Dallas, 20, I guess technically 26 years here, but I've been married for 21 this year. So that's getting up to a good chunk of my life too. And I felt like I got married at an older age, 27, 28 years old, I guess. But I'd always wanted to find the love of my life. And so I'm glad I did. And so another thing I was doing for myself for my 50th is, writing poems because I felt like if you look at your life, which many of us do, and you're like, but it just feels like it hasn't been that long. And you look at the numbers and you're like, oh, like I'm now 50 or I'm 60 or 70. It just doesn't feel like it's been that long. So I'm writing poems that are a minute long and I'm going to write 50 of them. Now, obviously I'm turning 50 today. Actually, I've just turned 50. My mom said I was born at 11 something in the morning and this is 11 something Central Time. So technically I was born like right now. But I was going to write poems that are a minute long to just signify the fact that it feels like life goes really fast. And so, let me see if there's one I could read that would be interesting. Let's see. I wrote one. This is poem number 21 that I've already read it online, but I put it as untitled. But I wrote, a quieter mind, a faint smile, a reminder that peace is overriding performance, a listening ear both to hear, Worry brings no joy. It is forms of control and the illusions beyond. Beauty begins in this place. And I think I wrote that because I was having a reflective moment about listening and being quiet, and also how worry doesn't really bring you anything. It just kind of takes up space. So fill your mind on other things, maybe. So I had written that one. And then I can tell a fun story about something I did recently on my travels. So on my travels, I told y'all I decided to start celebrating all year long, and I knew I was going to be traveling this year, and I thought the best way to do that is to just get a crown, and I was going to celebrate wherever I went. And so I started that in LA when I was speaking at a convention, and my friend took me out to a little restaurant, and I have my 2 wedding pro friends with me. We're just hanging out and having a great time. And so I put my crown on, and that was basically when I started celebrating, was around March. And then I went to Boston recently, the area. And hi, Shinu. I went to Boston recently, and I also put on my crown and celebrated with everybody I saw there. Even if I didn't have my crown on, I was still celebrating my 50th. But one thing I did that I thought would be fun for my family was they have these live stream webcams at certain places on the coast there. And so we were staying on the coast, and there was a couple of live streams there. And then also up in Maine, when I went to the lighthouse, there was a live stream at the lighthouse. And so what I did was I messaged my mom and sister, and I said, hey, I'm going to be at this live stream at this time. Turn on your YouTube or look at the live stream on the YouTube. And I could in real time, I would dance, and I would do like my version of jumping jacks on the live stream so my family could see me. So I thought that was really fun. And I did that, basically celebrating all year long. And if I could, she knew I would come back to Ireland. I totally would. And celebrate there as well. But right now this is my birthday day, and I'm at home, and this is like the best present I wanted to give myself, was just time with people. And so this was very last minute, and the invitation was just to everybody, knowing that nobody's probably going to be able to make it except for a handful. And but I wanted to do it because I think it's very special. It's very special to think about your life, talk about your life, because many of us who have been alive for a while already, you've shared your life with so many different people. And especially since I've been living in Dallas for about 26 years, I was like, I have a whole group of people I've met over time here. And then I have, a handful of people I remember from childhood. So, there's a handful of people that may remember me. Like, I might remember them, but that's the thing about always being the new kid in school, is that people don't remember you. They might remember the people they went to school with their whole life, but they don't remember the new kid that came in for a year. But I do. I remember. There's a lot of people I remember. And I remember their names specifically. Like, there's some names that I remember, and I have yearbooks. I have yearbooks. That's one cool thing about my childhood that was helpful, is having yearbooks. Because then I could remember where I was and what I looked like. And again, that's photography in general, right? Like, we're taking photos and stills of people across our lifetime. And so yearbooks really helped me remember where I was, what it looked like. And I remember looking at my parents' yearbooks, the handful that they had when they were doing things. So I've been getting my daughter's yearbooks, and that's fun because it is such a smaller school, but at the same time, it's full of just images of all these little faces that are all going to school together, and they're kind of making their own memories. So awesome, Shinu. Are you in the studio today, or are you at the computer editing? I'm so glad you could come on. I know there's a slight time difference, but it's probably perfect for you. But I'm trying to think what else. Any other questions for somebody who's been alive for 50 years? Like, is there something that you have always been curious about from me, besides from my sister and mom that are already here? Um, things that made me me, maybe, right? Definitely was a shy kid growing up. And once I left college, I mean, I had a good time at college, don't get me wrong. It's like, but once I left college, it was like, you're adulting. You feel like you're sort of on your own, you're figuring the world out. And I know it seems to be happening a lot earlier these days with the younger generations, is they're already accessing information that we didn't have back then. So I see my daughter growing up super fast. Just because, like, that's just, we think differently now. We all communicate differently. We talk a lot more about stuff. And I'm actually grateful for that. Like, there's nothing like not being able to share what you're thinking or feeling when you're in a safe space. And let's see. Da, 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 da. I am messaging a couple of texts here. Aw. Yay. So I messaged a lot of people. Okay, I love you, Becky. Thank you for coming. Oh my gosh, Shinu, I've got a new computer too. Oh my God. Zach's setting it up for me. It's almost done. And it's like, I feel like every time there's another need for change, it's always about memory, RAM. And I was like, yeah, I'm just one of those people that likes to sit still for a while and just let me have this technology till it just doesn't work anymore, says the person who used to have a flip phone until just a few years ago. Like, I had a flip phone for the longest time. So, yay. Some people are just now seeing my messages. So, if they come on, it's all good. But a lot of people work during the week and they work during the day. And I'm just like, because I'm a wedding photographer and I'm on summer break, I do not work during the day. So, but a lot of people, oh, yay. I also have people on different coastlines right now. Like, I have the East Coast, West Coast, right? And then I have people that are doing lunch today. I thought this would be way more fun than me trying to plan a birthday party. I don't know about y'all, but as much as I would love to have like a giant party, I would have invited the whole world. Kind of like my wedding. When I got married, I was like, I'm going to invite everybody I've ever met. And Zach's like, I don't really want to invite anybody. But yeah, for my wedding, that was the whole other thing. So for those of y'all that don't know that story, I don't know if anybody's online that hasn't heard my piece of my wedding story, but because I had already been a Blue Man fan since 96, and then I found the fan community in 2000, 2001, right? It just made sense to have a Blue Man-ish wedding. Poor Zach. So I remember there was a fan meet in 03, and I don't remember if I got to go into anything in 04, and I got married in 05, and then I had about 5 years where I didn't get to do any fan-related stuff. And then I got to go to Joe's wedding in 2010. So, like, there was a lot of things in the fan community that I was a part of before I even got to get married. So when I got married, I was like, well, I want to do this for my wedding, and it's all Blue Man related. I was like, it's easy. It's a fun theme. I'm already heavily involved. 03, we had the Complex Rock Tour and all that stuff. And I was like, it was just easy to put something together that felt very me. And but that kind of left Zach like just showing up. Just show up, Zach. And I remember somebody posted recently a polka dot cake, and it was a polka dot wedding cake. And I said, well, fun fact, I didn't get my dream wedding cake on my wedding day because I was so tired of planning all my own stuff. That's the reason I did not plan a 50th birthday party. I was tired for even thinking about it. But what was great is that when we had our after party reception, somebody from his side, the friend of the family, said, "What kind of cake do you want?" And I said, "Well, this is the cake that I wanted." It was a cute little two-tier blue polka dot cake. Literally Blue Man Blue polka dots. That's all I wanted. And so she made that cake for me, and I thought that was amazing of, somebody like I didn't know how to ask for help back then. Kind of was like doing it all, winging it and stuff. So, um I just said, "Y'all just do it, and I want to do these things and I'll show up." My mom did the decorations. I still have some of them. I'm sure you know that, Mom. I still have the champagne glasses. I still have a lot of the Gerber daisies. I've reused them. I've repurposed them. Some of them are just decoration. Hi. Hi, hi, hi. I'm just on here telling stories. I was getting to my wedding day. My wedding day with my Blue Man theme and all that good stuff. And so I had like, the blue polka dot cake was at the wedding reception, and I was super happy. I was playing Blue Man music at my wedding. I know my family thought I was crazy, but I was having the time of my life. And, fast forward to now, I didn't know I was going to be a wedding photographer. Back then, I certainly didn't think I was going to be a wedding photographer. But when there was this shift of film to digital, and I was like, well, I'll take a digital camera to New York City. So, fun fact, our honeymoon was in New York City. And so at that point, I was like, well, we have to go see Blue Man. We're going to go see the city and all this stuff. So we actually did Blue Man for our honeymoon. We did New York City stuff. Hi. I see everybody coming in. I've been on for a little over an hour, and I've gone through a lot of stories, but I'm still going. I'm right now on my wedding story. So welcome in. So a piece of the wedding story is, I had a lot of Blue Man aspects. I had the bathroom song. I called it the waiting song when you're waiting for the show to start. It's Dulcimer. Thanks to all of my nerdy friends, including Joe. We had MP3s and the ability to have those songs with us instead of trying to go to the show. So at the time I had access to the MP3s, and that was nice. I could play. Each one had like a CD in the bathroom. Actually, I had it on CDs, and I put them in both bathrooms. And this is how much of a nerd I am. Okay. I went all in on that. I got permission from the church that we used to play that music. And eventually they were like, well, we don't want you playing that. And eventually I just said, well, nobody's here. We're going to play Blue Man now for the reception. So we had some of the Blue Man music for the reception too. And then just two friends dressed up as Blue Men in makeup. I had Jesse and I had Patricia. They dressed up in blue, and it was really fun because she has hair all the way down to her back, at least at the time. And she shoved it all down her shirt and in a bald cap. I still don't know how she did that. And they just did some fun little skits from the Complex Rock Tour and integrated that into my reception, and it was perfect. I said it was everything I could have wanted or needed, and I just thanked Jesse for doing that for me, because I was just like, he was the only person I knew at the time that had dressed up for Halloween as a Blue Man. And he lived locally. So hi. Yes, all the nerds. So it was really, really cool to experience that at my wedding, and then also have some of my Blue Man friends there. And I know that because I had so many friends all over the place, there were so many people that couldn't make it, but like the ones that were more like they could make it, they did. Including, I know y'all were here, some of y'all were here for the story about college when I met my friend Angela at aviation camp. She and her family made it to my wedding. So it was like, they had all the caravan down to Texas. And so her mom was there, her dad was there, she was there. And I knew her from an aviation camp that I went to at Oklahoma State. So it was neat. It's just neat how you pick up friends along the way for your lifetime. And Angela's definitely been one of those memorable people. We would talk Top Gun together. She was heavily into military and aircraft, and she had an interesting story. And then I told y'all a while ago, like we used to sit on the computer lab stuff, and then we were like, I was a Star Trek, we were Star Trek Next Generation names at that time, Jean-Luc Picard and Tribble and all that. Well, I told y'all she was going to go to college for aviation. She ended up becoming a boat captain, which is basically the funny thing is that she ended up becoming a ship captain after all, she had to leave the aviation industry when 9/11 happened. So that kind of went like a dead end for a while, a long while. And she went to be to do really amazing things on boats. And I think to this day she still does a whole bunch of stuff. And so it's been so cool to keep up with her and see how she's doing and all that stuff. So, but yeah, there's a lot of people that came to my wedding that I'm still friends with, or some people that have fallen away at the time. Like there was some people from, church way back in the day. There was Blue Man friends, online friends. I had somebody mix up the directions and got there super late. So she felt bad and I was like, "Aw." But yeah, so that's a little bit of my wedding stuff, but that's, that was 21 years ago. And, this year I've just been like reminiscing on life. Um, any other questions now that I've got some new people in here? Any other weird questions or any happy birthdays going on? Like anybody else doing anything special for their birthday? This is the first time I've ever done a live stream. This is the first time. I prefer actually sitting and talking with people, but I just was gonna have to go with the talking head today because this was so last minute. Um, yeah, super, super last minute. Thank you for making it, Becca. All the fun, amazing people. Yes. Okay. So fun fact, I think I mentioned it earlier in the call is they're having a big fan meet in Orlando this weekend that I can't be there. And if I was, I was going to totally celebrate my birthday with you all too. But Jake, I know you guys are going to have an amazing time. I saw the itinerary. It looks awesome. I haven't seen the new show in Orlando, obviously, but I can't wait to get out there and see it. It's just a matter of the timing. This weekend was crazy. There's so many things overlapping this weekend that I can't do it. But I told Miracle I want to take her out there because I think there's something about the touring show was fine, but I think the theater planted productions are much more what I would want her to see, right? Like it's different when you're on tour versus home base, right? So I still kind of want to take her to that. And yes, for the dinner call, I'll try to set a reminder for myself too. I'll need to look at their schedule and then like set a reminder to set up a little call. Even if I can't hear you, I just want to wave and say hi to everybody. Since I know some of the OGs are going to be there, and of course the staff there in Orlando now. Oh, well, I will miss you guys. It's all good. I'm trying to think what else here. I'm starting to get hungry now, y'all. So what should I have for lunch? I was thinking about being really, really, really wild and just having donuts or something. Like, I still have half a cup of coffee here. I haven't even finished. My hat's getting itchy. But thank you all for the happy birthdays. It's been so much fun to just sit here and just remember life. And let me see if there's another poem I could read. Let's see here. It's just so interesting how much life has lifed. We've talked about basketball, we've talked about high school, college, getting married, having a kid. Yeah, that was a whole other journey. That would be a whole live stream to itself. I still have to write that story because that's a very interesting story. But I do have to say, one thing I know I've realized that's different about me now versus then, especially in my business right now, is I used to have a whole bunch of stuff in my home. Like I would do photo sessions inside my home. I would have client pictures on the wall, and use it as a meeting space there for a while. And what I'm trying to do now, which I know Jake has done a great job, Joe has done a great job, just decorating a space that it's a celebration of you and the things that you love. And so I've slowly been taking down artwork that is like more outward based and focusing now on more inward based art. Like when I got the lobster a few years ago as a birthday present, by the way, fun fact, 2023, I went to Chicago. That's what I wanted to do for my birthday. And we went and saw Blue Man Chicago. And then I had a whole birthday celebration in 2023 there. And they gave me a lobster, which was used in the show and on their Christmas tree. So I took that lobster and I put it on a painting so I could hang it on the wall. So I have my front room is slowly turning into memorabilia, and my cousin gave me a peacock feather this weekend, and then my other cousin gave me like this cute little glass sculpture she found at a thrift shop or something, and so I put that on the shelf as well. Just fun little quirky things. Like I was telling y'all, I have my rotary phone. I've got my rotary phone up there. Got vampire plants. But I have all this Blue Man memorabilia that I've had for years that I've never really given it justice. I've never really given it its own voice. And so I've been slowly working on this. And I showed Jake because Jake's done an exceptional job at the ideas that he's put together. And I got a case that is housing a whole bunch of streamers that I picked up from the last show here. And I mean, it was a lot of streamers. I've never taken that many streamers home before, but I was with my daughter and I was like, I feel like this is a sentimental moment. I want to take all these streamers home. And then I started making what I would call like a jellyfish. I used the glue and it basically is, I put it on as a hat because it's basically the shape of a head. Like I put it on a balloon and then I pop the balloon. But what I want to do is kind of like hang it up and then hopefully where the cats won't get it and try to play with it because it is basically a giant cat toy. So that was really cool. I put that together for myself. It's just kind of sitting on the table right now, so I don't really know what I'm going to do with it. But so that's something I'm doing for myself is learning to express myself in my own home in a different way that's not client resolving. Like I'm not client centered. I don't have wedding photos, starting to like take those down. All right, Steph, have a good day. Say hi to grandma for me. Maybe I'll try to call y'all later since it's a fun day and maybe I'll just try to call y'all in a little bit. But yeah. That's cute. I was scrolling back on the comments about everything. It's so cool to see everybody. Well, I also know that there's a conference going on right now. I'd messaged a couple of people and they're like, well, we're at this conference. And I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot that was going on. I mean, I knew it was going on, but I didn't know when. I guess I'd forgotten the dates. But I know it's submitted to speak there. But I know there's a convention, like a little conference going on right now. But I hope it's going great for everybody who is going to that. Because I saw Teresa poke in earlier. And then let's see what else. I had a lot of people busy today too. So, man, I'm getting hungry, y'all. Should eat something. My coffee's cold and my tummy is hungry. Might be getting some food soon. So I guess I'll tell you all about my weekend too. So the weekend I went out to see my mom because I was like, well, my mom birthed me 50 years ago. I should should go spend time with her and then take Miracle over there. And at the same time, I told my cousins I was going to be there since I have all three of my cousins on my aunts, just they all live in town there. So I was like, why don't we just all get together? So we did that. It was so nice. Like we're having 100 degrees this week, but it's for some reason it was really nice and dark and stormy. And we had a double rainbow on the way there. We had a double rainbow. We stopped over to pull over before the rain hit to take pictures of it. It wasn't vibrant like, the guy in Yellowstone, or wherever he was, but it was enough to stop and enjoy that moment with my daughter. So we did that. We had a nice time doing that. And then, had sort of like a summery pool party get together just with basic food. And I went and got cupcakes and a little tiny sheet cake. Bye, Jake. Have fun. Went and got a cake, went and got cupcakes. And originally I was like, let's just do 50 candles on a cupcake and make it ridiculous and set it on fire. But we didn't do that. They spelled out a 50. It was cute. They spelled out 50, put it on the little cake, and then they lit it all. And it was really cool. And it was lit as a 50. It was pretty great. But so that's what we did this weekend. And then today I was just going to chill and be on here for a little bit. And then, yeah, I think I'm going to go get some lunch here in a few minutes. I want to make sure that I don't miss anybody else coming online. There's a lot of people packing, traveling, working. So yeah, I texted a whole bunch of people. And there's a lot of people posting online. I got some old school pictures from my friend Tiffany on there. Back in the days, right before I got married. So yeah, I obviously wasn't always pink-headed. So when I moved to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I was much more of a blonde meets coppery golden blonde. So, totally different look on my wedding day than I do now. So I've got my nice white coming in. Got my white hairs, pink hairs. Let's see, this week. Trying to think what else I have coming up this week. I've got a couple of things. So we got school starting. I've got a thing up in New York I'll be going to. I'll be doing Fan Expo Dallas this year. They're supposed to send out information for the Artist Alley soon. So it's going to be at the non-demolished half of the convention center. So that'll be happening. I'll be in Artist Alley again, and then I'll be doing Spooky Spectacle in Granbury. And that's back to back because Fan Expo is usually earlier in the year. And now that FIFA's over, we get to have everything that was moved because of that. Now it's all having and clumped up in September now. Then there's the wedding season will begin again in October, roughly. So yeah, it's going to be fun. So I figured I'm just going to celebrate the rest of the year. I'll put on my crown, celebrate the rest of the year. This is my actual birthday day, but I would rather celebrate all year long because it's kind of awesome to be alive this long and have a lot of amazing friends. And just thank y'all for stopping by today. I'm getting hungry. I feel like I need to go eat something. But it's been a pleasure to sit with you all. And so many of you have been able to stop in, and I'm very excited to see the stream of people as I could over here on the chat bar over here. And but yeah, there's a lot of people at work right now. There's lots of different time zones. But thank you again for coming in, you guys. It's been such a pleasure. I will shut it down in the next 3 minutes. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to share. I guess what I could do is some of the best insights as a 50-year-old who's been alive for a while. I said it during my birthday party. I've been alive for a while, but I know I don't know everything. And I love and appreciate that. I also know that sometimes the younger generation probably knows more than I do because it's a whole different world now. Or I don't keep that much information stored inside of me. What I am very appreciative of is the healing that I've gone through, the emotional growth, the emotional tapping into things that you've had traumatize you, hurt you, finding healing for those things. That has been a game changer the last 6-7 years, maybe actually 8 years. Those are the things that I could have tapped into my entire life, but I didn't know what it was like to be on the other side. So I would say, as somebody who is now 50 and just now dealing with a lot of intense things, go ahead and deal with some of your things. deal with whatever those things are. And you're never too young, you're never too old. So I've started my daughter early, just like start processing things now. Um, don't lie to yourself about what happened to you, whatever that might be. I can tell myself stories all day long, but that the truth of what happened is different than the actual reality. Then I need to like have a look at what reality was, and then see it for what it was, and then move forward. It's kind of where I'm at now. It's like having to really just kind of look at things and have fun with life. If you do have some grandparents or adopted grandparents, have some conversations with them. Love on them a little bit, and then whoever you come in contact with, find a way to be kind. Find a way to love on people beyond what you feel you're capable in those moments. The more you deal with your traumas, the more actually relatable you become to many people that are hurting right now. And we're all have some form of hurt, some sort of fear, some sort of things that bind us together, but also love can also be just as strong. So what I would think, just addressing the things in your life that you know you can, and then the rest of it, you walk it out as you go. And that's just coming from somebody who's now just been alive for 50, and I still have so much more to go. Trying to think what else can I leave you with today. If you get an idea for a project, whatever that is, and even if it feels like you can't finish it, start it anyway. And I know there's a lot of people in my life that are, your attention span is little to nothing. Maybe you have diagnoses about the way you function, but you know what? Go do the things anyway. And like I said, I was going to write 50 poems before I turned 50. I have 10 more to go. So as soon as I get off here, I'm going to write 10 today. Because I didn't want to loop myself into a deadline I didn't want to try to accomplish. So like I will write it and I will get my 10 done, and then we'll go online. And anytime that you want to read those or hear those, you can. At some point, I'm going to take, and I say this a lot too, this is me giving myself my own advice, is make the book, write the book. So at some point, I'm going to just put all these together. I've got handwritten, I've got typed, I've got photos that should go with them. I'm just going to make a little poem book of what I just did, because why not? It's not about how many people you try to reach. It's just about you doing the things that are inside of you and not caring. I think sometimes I bring that to the art world, and sometimes I still get scared to do stuff too. Sometimes you want stuff to have a purpose and a meaning before you do it, but sometimes you just need to do it. And then sometimes you find the story, the meaning, and the purpose once you've done it. So the poem thing for me has been lovely because there is no judge except myself. I'm not trying to win anything. I'm not trying to impress anybody. I am simply trying to write streams of consciousness and things that mean something to me. And I think it's important to express exactly who you are in that time, because that you can change in the next week, in the next month, in the next year. What else can I leave you with today? Especially when it comes to art, even if you're not an artist, you can always go back to art as an expression of who you are. Thank you, Granny. Always go back to art in whatever format, even if you don't think you're creative. If it's in music, paint, creation, writing, connection with people, that's an art form too. Find a way to connect to yourself and to connect to other people. That's one thing. I'd written that for years. For those who do or do not believe in a higher power, as connect to that thing greater than yourself. Connect to yourself, which is how you are specifically made. And the identity that has been given to you and the life that you've been given has shaped who you are, and own it. And then connect with others in that realm, knowing that many people are different than you. Many people have similarities. I tend to connect with many people who are different than me, even by accident. I think because I'm drawn to people that are different, because that always helps me think outside of myself. So when the people that I meet, they're vastly different than me. My husband is very different from me. My daughter is different than me. But we can all relate. We can all relate on things. And that's the beautiful part of humanity. And all of us here across the world and all the different time zones. So today on my 50th birthday, I leave you with just a whole bunch of love. Thank you so much, even for just responding to my messages. If you could not make the live today, I just wanted to be sure and let you know that I appreciated you and I absolutely invited you personally. So I'm glad you could stop by, even if it was for a few minutes or even if it's on the replay. So thank you so much for helping me celebrate my 50th, and feel free to leave some comments. Feel free to subscribe to my channel and help me get some more subscribers too. I would love that if you haven't already, because I've been building up my channel for a while and this is just fun. And this is just a unique thing that I wanted to do today for my birthday. And so thank you again for making it so special. And I love and appreciate you all. And more stories to come, my friends. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you later. Bye.